You're all set, right, Carol?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, great. All right, we're ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and call to order the Select Board meeting for Monday, January 27th, 2025. It is now currently 7:04 PM on the wall clock, 7:01 PM on my computer clock, because they are never the same. And we are here in the training room of the Public Safety Complex. I just want to make two brief announcements. We will not be having any executive sessions tonight. Kirk, unfortunately, is not feeling well and unable to join us. Heather also not feeling well, but she's able to join us and at least keeping her germs on her side of the screen. Thank you, Heather. And so I'm going to go ahead and start with taking things just a little bit out of order, because tonight is the budget summit for the Wachusett Regional School District School Committee. And so I want to start with that item so that we can get our school committee member, who is also chair currently of the school committee, back off to that meeting. So do you want to come up and get maybe a little bit closer? You can sit right here next to our lovely Brooke if you'd like.
Sure.
Thank you, Scott. And that way you have a microphone there as well.
Okay.
Peter, he's just going to steal that microphone from you.
Give it back,
He'll give
I
it back, I
promise.
promise.
I promise.
All right, so I'm taking the agenda just a smidge out of order for the reason I already stated. So we already have heard from Jeremy Richard and Anne Marie Stoika as our two potential candidates to fill the open position on the Wachusett Regional District School Committee. This is an appointment by the Select Board. Typically, when it is an elected position, it is a joint effort between the remaining members of said board and the Select Board. So we wanted to make sure that Scott Runstrom was here with us for this discussion. He was unable to be here with us last meeting, and so we decided to wait because we value your opinion, Scott. So Scott is here with us tonight. Scott, did you have the opportunity to review the last meeting?
I did. I watched the meeting and I was able to review the resumes of both candidates.
Excellent, great. So do you have any thoughts or feedback that you'd like to give the board?
I do. I'd like to say some words if that's
Absolutely, go ahead.
Okay. So first of all, as several of the Select Board members said at the last meeting, I think we're extremely fortunate to have two very qualified candidates for this role. And so as school committee chair, I would be happy to work with either of them. I think they're both qualified. Both candidates are longtime Paxton residents and qualified for the position. Jeremy has children in the district and experience on the finance committee, which would be a benefit for the school committee. Anne Marie has 25 years of experience as school district HR director at Leominster and Neshoba and has a background as an attorney, which would be extremely valuable in the role. I also happen to know both candidates personally. I've known Anne Marie for 8 years, and I've known Jeremy even longer. The two of us coached a Little League team together when our kids were in middle school about a decade ago. I know they're both very good people, level-headed and civic-minded, and will do their best to represent Paxton on the school committee. But I expect that you know all this already. You talked to them last week, and I know we only have one spot to fill, and the Select Board has asked for my opinion. So it's a difficult call, especially given that I know both of these candidates personally. However, having served on the Select Board, the Finance Committee, and the School Committee, my recommendation would be to appoint Anne Marie Stoika. I have 3 reasons for this decision. First, this isn't the most important, but a factor I would consider is that Jeremy already serves on a town committee, while Anne Marie does not. Municipal government only functions through volunteers, and I believe attracting more volunteers is important to the health of local government. So I'm inclined to favor appointing a candidate who is a first-time volunteer, assuming that they're qualified. Second, I understand that Jeremy intends to remain on the Finance Committee, which I appreciate his service on, in addition to taking a role in the School Committee. Now, as someone who's served over 12 years on the Finance Committee and 4 years on the School Committee, in my opinion, this isn't a good idea to hold both roles at once. Not only do both roles require significant time and energy commitment, but I do think that serving in both roles presents something of a conflict of interest, or at least the appearance of a conflict of interest. I want to be clear that this is in no way a criticism of Jeremy. It's based on my own experience having served in both roles. Everyone in this room knows that with a limited amount of money, there's often tension between things that the school wants, things that the town wants, and what the town can afford in general. And I think this presents an inherent conflict between the two roles, and one that could be more harmful to the town than the school district. I do understand that it's technically allowed to serve in both roles under the 2023 bylaw revision, so this is just my opinion, but I believe there was a good reason that it was not allowed for the 85 years before that. And the current bylaw actually states that serving in two roles should be an exception and actually requires a vote by the Select Board to allow it. Again, this is just my opinion, but I think making an exception may make sense if there were no other candidates for this role. But since there is another qualified candidate, I would avoid the potential conflict of interest and appoint Anne Marie. Finally, and most important, I would come back to Anna Marie's qualifications. In my opinion, there's no one in the state of Massachusetts more qualified for this role than Anne Marie, including the current members of the school committee, including myself. Anne Marie has a master's degree in education, a law degree, and a background as a labor lawyer, as well as 25 years' experience working as HR director of 2 large school districts. In my opinion, her experience would be invaluable to the school committee. The school district budget is, of course, a concern to all of us, and a large majority of the budget consists of personnel costs, and the majority of that is the teacher's contract. Next year, we'll enter into negotiations with the teachers, so I think Anne Marie's experience as a labor lawyer, as an HR director, would be absolutely invaluable as part of the process and would benefit both the district and the town. So I want to reiterate, I would be very happy to serve with either one of these candidates, but for the reasons I just said, I'd recommend appointing Anne Marie.
Thank you, Scott. Do you have any questions for Scott?
No, not at all. Well said. Thank you. Thank you for your input. Much
The only-
appreciated.
Sorry.
It's all right.
The only question that I had for you, Scott, tonight is the budget summit. Between now and May, what is the school committee going to be doing?
So between now and May, I mean, the biggest thing that happens between now and May is obviously the budget. So we have the budget retreat tonight. Then we'll be discussing the budget over February, and I believe March is when it's actually voted on. So the biggest thing we're working on is the budget.
Okay.
The school committee really has 4 things that we do. It's the budget, it's negotiating union contracts, it's hiring the superintendent, and it's policy. So there will be policy work going on, but the school committee budget and negotiations with the labor unions are the 2 biggest things that are going on.
Okay. Great. So I did want to just make mention that we have received several letters of recommendation that were unsolicited, actually. I lost count. Do you remember how many?
About 4 or 5, I think.
1,
We got one this past weekend.
3, 4, 5, 6,
6.
7.
Really?
7. So we have 7 letters of recommendation that came in unanimous for Anne Marie as well. Some of them echoed some of the things that you just said, so I'm not going to read them all. I don't think anybody wants that kind of riveting television. However, I just wanted to put them here. Certainly, if anybody wants to read them, we can attach them to the minutes, should anybody care for that. So with that, I would entertain any further discussion, Carol, if you have any?
No, I think we're very fortunate to have 2 candidates. That doesn't always happen, especially for a position like the school committee. I think either candidate could do a great job. I do favour Anne-Marie for a couple of reasons. One being and she's not actually a new person because she was on the personnel committee a long time ago, but a long time since she served for the town, and I think that would be invaluable. And Jeremy, with all his host experience in finance and his other work, I think he'd do a great job as well. But like I said, that's
Yeah.
my opinion.
So I agree. I think we have two fantastic candidates. It is a great position for us to be in, where we basically can't make a bad decision here. You're getting a good candidate one way or the other. I think selfishly, I think that Jeremy has a very good set of critical thinking skills, and I would like to keep all of those critical thinking skills here on the Finance Committee and not share them. So selfish, I think, of me, but also Anne Marie certainly is a very qualified candidate for this role, so I feel comfortable with either one. So with that, and no further discussion, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we appoint Anne-Marie Stoiker to the Wachusett School Committee until the May election.
I would second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we don't have to do a roll call because Kirk is not on the Zoom. So- All right, so you have an appointment. Welcome, Anne Marie. Congratulations. I look forward to seeing all that you can do until May, at which time that position, of course, becomes elected, and anybody who wants to can certainly run for the election, and we'll wait to see those results. All right, thank you very much. I appreciate all of the involvement, and thank you for stepping up. And thank you, Scott, for being able to run here and before you go over to there. All right, so in the same vein of taking things out of order, I'd like to go ahead with our joint meeting with the planning board, because we have certainly multiple members of the planning board here. And we are tasked with a very similar situation, where we're going to be appointing somebody, or hopefully appointing somebody, to fill a role. Do we have Neil on Zoom? Was he Zooming?
He's not.
No, you can't make it.
He couldn't make it. Okay, but we do have a quorum, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Myself, Peter, and David.
Yep.
So do you need to open your meeting? Who's a vice chair? Oh.
Yes. So yes, I will open our planning board meeting,
Great.
7:15. Again, I'm Vice Chair Jason Burgess. We have Peter Scherer and David Bloom here. Neil is absent. And we have one candidate for our open position, who is Bruno Frangillo. And I believe we have some questions for him. Is it best he just sits here or goes up front, or what's?
He can sit there, that's fine.
There,
Yeah.
microphone.
Yeah, as long
Thank
as
you.
we've got a microphone for him. So go ahead, if you have some questions for him that you've prepared, by all means.
Yep. So just, I just like to start is what makes you want to join the planning board?
So I've been in town since 2016. My wife's been here for over 4 generations, and I'm trying to get more involved in the community. I've been in the construction industry since I was a little kid and been managing a company for about 10 years. I really want to get involved in Paxton, and I think that the planning board is something I can take my life skills and apply it to.
That sounds great.
I'd like to say something.
Yep.
So I met Bruno, and Jason and I both met him on the DPW committee, and he dove right in, and pretty much Jason and he spearheaded the proposal, or the wording for the proposal, to go out and get bids on the renovation of that. Oh, am I? Okay. Oh, okay. Confusing with someone else. Sorry
That's
about
okay.
that.
No worries. Maybe next time.
Anyways, so it's just met Bruno. Damn confusing. Yep. And seems like he's got great background that would help us out in filling our vacancy. And I offline I explained to him that this is an appointment. He'll have to run for election. There's a couple ways to get on the ballot,
Yep.
which he is now aware of, the
Good.
caucus, or getting petitions signed.
Strongly recommend the caucus.
The caucus.
Perfect.
Yep, and that's what I went
Yeah.
through last year, so. Anyways, looks like you've lived in the area, or the general area, your whole life, from Oxford.
Yep. Yeah, I grew up in North Oxford. I've only lived in 2 towns, and it's North Oxford and Paxton.
Okay, that's it. I don't have any other questions.
Okay.
Peter, did you have any questions?
No, the only thing I want to say is I appreciate having Bruno to come forward to participate in the planning board. We're very active, and with him joining would be a great asset.
Very good. So I believe we need to do a roll call vote amongst us.
Yeah. So if we have any questions, do you mind if we ask some questions?
course, of
Yeah. So the only thing that, I actually don't have a question, I just, but the only thing I wanted to say was the planning board certainly has their work cut out for them in the upcoming months. There's a lot to be done with the MBTA communities and all of that. So I'm sure that they're going to welcome any hands on board that are willing to help out and start doing some of that, or continue doing some of that heavy lifting, because they've already done a lot of work on these things. So, so thank you for stepping up.
Perfect, thank you.
Carol, anything for Bruno?
No, I saw the application you filled in, and it looks like you'll be a good fit for the planning board, so welcome.
Thank you.
All right. So I'll entertain a motion if anybody should wish to make it for a appointment.
I'll make a motion.
I'll s-
Bruno for the open planning board slot.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Oh,
All right. Do you want to call for a vote of your board?
sure. So roll call vote. Peter?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
And I will vote yes.
Okay. And Carol, how do you vote?
Yes.
Assuming you agree.
Yes. Yes. Yep. I agree.
And I'll vote yes as well. So welcome aboard. Thank you so much for volunteering your time and agreeing to put this effort into a very important committee in our town.
Thanks for having me.
That'll close our planning board meeting.
Very good. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so taking things again out of order. We also have a joint meeting with the Water Board to interview candidates to fill the open position on the Water Board until the next town election, May of 2025. We're just going to continue a theme tonight. So I have Marcella Clem and Dee Malone. Do you folks want to come up to Marcella? Yes. And Dee. Oh, you're already sitting next to each other. Do you want to slide up and join us here at the front? And then the water, do we have water? Oh, you're in the back. Yep. If you can come up to the front as well.
Will this work? If I sit here,
That's fine. Yeah, yeah. As long as you have a microphone, that's really the biggest issue.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Welcome. It's okay.
It's okay. As long as
I'm
you're
sorry to
moving.
put you on the spot. All right. So we have our water commissioners here. Do you want to introduce yourselves?
Rodney Jenkins, Water Commissioner.
Dave Trilson, Water Commissioner.
Okay.
Travis Steve-O, DPW Director.
Okay, great. So we have an open position on the water board until the town election in May of 2025. I'd be remiss if I didn't speak as to the reason for the open position, and it's due to the unfortunate passing of Jack Malone. And so we definitely thank Jack for all of his service to the town, particularly with regard to the water board. That said, we do have two candidates that have stepped up in order to fill this open position. Marcella Clem and Dee Malone.
Everybody, nice meeting you all.
So what I'd like to do to start, if it's okay with you. Yeah, that probably should open their meeting. Yeah, go ahead.
David, you want to make a motion?
I make a motion, we open
So the water meeting is
I'll
open.
second that.
Okay, great.
7:23.
So what I'd like to do, if it's okay with you, is hear from both of the candidates. All right. Who wants to go first?
I can go first.
Okay, go right ahead.
Okay, so nice meeting everybody. Good evening. My name is Marcella Clem. A little bit of my background, I actually went to school here in Paxton. I went to Anna Maria. I got a degree in environmental science. Water is kind of my thing. I graduated in 2013. I now work at Auburn Water District. I am the environmental compliance coordinator there. I do a little bit of field work as well. I do some sampling, and I also do a little bit of the boring stuff, which people consider that, but I don't think it's boring, which is filling out the paperwork and doing all of the reports with Mass DEP and EPA as well. I just think this would be a good opportunity for me to step up and do something for the town. I've been here for 3 years. I lived in the general area for the last 20 years. We bought a house here 3 years ago. Before that, we lived in Leicester. We do see this our forever town. I mean, I don't really know what else to say, but if you do have any questions, I would be my best to do my best to answer them.
Okay. Any questions for Marcella?
I have a couple. I guess, I'll take this one. Are you on town water?
Yes.
And so, knowing that you're on town water, would you, the commissioner's job, I guess, is somewhat more administrative, I think.
Yes.
We sort of entrust the DPW or Travis to handle kind of the physical water aspect, and we as a board are more of the administrative, overseeing the budgets. So my question is, I'm not on the town water, so it's easy for me to raise rates and everything, because, hey, it's not going to affect me, but I don't take that attitude. But would you have a problem, or can you, in your conscience, say, we are facing an infrastructure serious problem,
Yes.
as all towns are.
Yes.
Because we don't get anything from the government. We don't get grants because Paxton's average income is too high. But we know we're facing, at least right off the bat, at least, 2 million, phase one, I think, Travis, In that on ballpark, West Street. Do you have a problem, or would you have a problem in agreeing to borrow money, which in turn is going to raise your rates? How do you feel about that? I mean, can you?
I absolutely have no problem with that. Because of what I do, I understand the problems that we have, especially with, everything that's going on. I'm sure that I'm so sorry, I forgot his name.
Travis?
Travis. You know what's been going on with the PFAS regulations that just passed, with the lead and copper inventory project, and if we do find any lead water mains that will have to be replaced, and where is this money coming from, I wouldn't have a problem in agreeing, because obviously I live in town, I have kids here, and the most important thing is to have safe water to all of us, not just my kids, but to everybody that lives in this town. So I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Now, do you have in your position, and it looked like you worked at Upper Blackstone for several years.
Yes.
Did you have anything to do with making your budget, or was
Not-
that made for you, or?
Not there. That was actually made for me. Over there, I was an intern, and then I got hired as a lab technician and a pretreatment inspector coordinator assistant. So my role there didn't really have much to do with the budget. In my new position, I am a little bit more involved, so I'm not part of the board there, but I do have certain roles that has to do with it, with the budgeting. In my case, with the lab, so right now I received some quotes from the sampling that we have to do. Then I have, to take and choose. I ended up going with a lab that it's a little bit more money, but they cover what we need. So now I have to give that to the board so they will either approve it or not. So my experience with the budgeting, it's tiny. It's not that much, I will say that.
Well, I guess I don't have anything more. I mean,
I thank you for your questions.
Oh,
I
well.
appreciate them.
Travis, do you have any questions for Marcella? No? Carol, anything for Marcella?
I don't think so. I saw your application. It seems like you'd be very well qualified for the water board.
Thank you.
I think you would be very useful in helping Travis with some of his problems that he has. I mean, he obviously deals with them himself, but I think it could help as a
Definitely.
sounding block. So yeah, I think it's nice to have somebody new step up. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Nice meeting you.
I'm sorry, I had one more question.
Go ahead.
Of course.
Did you ever hold a license?
No.
Require a license for?
No, they don't. I don't. I am thinking about getting one, but what I do, it's not a requirement, but I am thinking about getting one.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. I have no further questions, Marcella.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being a new face and stepping up.
Thank you.
Dee, go ahead if you'd like to say a few words.
Hi, thank you very much for having me. Most of you know me, but you probably don't know that for the last 2.5 years, I've been going to the water board meetings with Jack, and so I feel like I've learned a tremendous amount about the direction that the water board wants to go in and needs to go in to better the water for the town of Paxton. I also think that it's the financial end of it that I would bring a great deal to the board, as far as the rates are concerned and as far as, working with Travis and Louis. I've been there for the last 2.5 years, so I feel like I have a great understanding for that. And for those reasons, I would like to ask your consideration.
Okay. Do we have questions for Dee?
Well, not really. I guess I know Dee so well, and that she, over the last 2.5 years, as she said, I guess I've learned a lot about Dee, so no, I don't particularly have any questions.
Okay. What were the questions that you asked Marcella? I think it would be fair to have Dee answer the same questions so that,
Okay, yeah.
just for the benefit of
Sure.
everybody watching.
All right, same thing, I guess, Dee, you're on the water, town water, and it affects your rates. How do you feel about borrowing and knowing that it's going to raise rates, and, which never settles well with anyone?
I agree with Marcella 100%. We have to do something so that everybody that is on water benefits from it. And if we have to raise the rates to get there, if we have to borrow to get there, I think it's something that the board seriously has to take into consideration.
And I think, Dee, you probably downplay your knowledge of water and the aspects of the business, because I'm sure you talk shop with Jack over here, so I don't have any questions about that. What else did I ask? Well, I guess the other question I'd asked Marcella was about budgets and everything, but you, I know,
Yeah, the budgets,
you've been
I was-
involved in town budgets over the
I was, and when you raised the rates for July 1st, I think I was the one that sat quietly and said, you need to go up higher than what you did go up. And I know it's a tough pill to swallow, but I think, we need to worry about the infrastructure as far as going down West Street and making it work for everybody in this town. And it's something that has to be addressed, and we have to save the money, and if we have to borrow and go up on rates, that's what we're going to have to do.
Thank you.
It's a different ballgame.
I guess probably already answered this, but I guess a question for both. What do you envision your role as, Marcel, as a commissioner?
I'm not sure how to answer the question, but I would say that I see myself learning, I see myself helping, I see myself being a good asset to the board. And yeah, that's what I would say. Thank you.
I know it's a kind of a difficult
It's a
question.
loaded question, a little bit.
And Dee, same question.
The board itself really runs right now very well with Travis and Louis, and I think the one thing that the board has to continue to do is work well together. Try to figure out different ways of bringing more revenue in, try to figure out where we're headed down the road and how many years it's going to take us to get West Street done, and work that and how we're going to accomplish those. But I think Travis and Louis do a wonderful job of presenting the facts to the board, and it's the board that has to make the hard decisions.
Agreed. Thank you.
I'd just like to make a statement, if that's all right, more than a question, really for everybody here. You know, I know the focus right now is West Street because we've had a lot of issues in that area for the last 15 years anyways, maybe longer. It's really an infrastructure problem throughout the entire distribution system. You know, we have water mains aging back to 1934 that haven't been replaced. There's a very small section of main that has been updated since the start of the distribution system. So it's really going to be a big challenge. It should be a continuous effort to try to continue to update infrastructure on an annual basis, really. That obviously takes a lot of funding to do that, but I just want to make that clear to both the current and the new potential candidates, as well as everybody here watching, that it really needs to be done due to the simple age of the infrastructure. You know, we have a lot of breaks on West Street. We also have a lot of breaks on Marshall Street, down in the Camp Street neighborhood. It's spread out, you know, 122 heading towards Worcester and the Crowning Shield neighborhood. You know, we have many breaks throughout town. So it's not just one isolated small area, and, you know, unfortunately, it's expensive to do.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Carol, do you have anything?
Well, I've been attended the water board meetings for 10 years. I know that they run very smoothly under Travis and the board, and Jack was always the chair, and he always ran a tight ship. And I do know that these assistants on the board would be helpful. I know from not only, like you say, she's followed the water board throughout. She's attended the last 2 years' meetings, so she knows what's current and what you're working against. Also, she's got the background in the borrowing that you were talking about and what would be needed, and the rate structure. So I think either candidate brings their own value and strengths. Yeah.
Yep, I agree. We have, again, a fantastic position to be in where we have two candidates that are both very strong. This is, of course, an interim appointment, as were the last, and this is until May. This is an elected position, so whoever we appoint tonight will be there until May, and then we'll have to run for election. So with that, is there any further discussion that anybody would like to make from the Water Board or from the Select Board?
No, I have none.
I don't think so. It's tough.
It is
I
a
think
tough-
Sometimes it's nice when you get one candidate.
I know.
Because, makes it easy. And Marcella, it sounds like you're very qualified, and you like water.
I like that. Yep, I do. I do.
But we have to make it, a tough decision.
Yep. I'm inclined to allow the Water Board to decide or speak for who they would like. That you're the ones who have to work with a new commissioner. Certainly, Carol, if you feel differently.
No, we
but
did that at the
that's-
last board, so.
That's my thought process, so.
Yeah. Well, you want me to say something?
Yes.
I think because it is a short-term appointment, I would probably feel just as comfortable going with Dee because of her experience and because the time she's put in, and there would be no break-in period right now, but I would really encourage Marcella that if she wanted to pursue this, or any board, and we thank you for running or asking for a board, but that there is an election, and get out there and knock on doors or whatever, if you so desire. But I guess my vote would go with D alone.
Okay.
I agree, but I think it's reassuring that we have two candidates. They're both qualified. And like I said, March is here, or May, whatever.
Right. Yep, absolutely. So with that, if your board would like to make a motion and vote, by all means.
Well, I'd make a motion to appoint D. Malone as an interim water commissioner.
I'll second. Okay.
All
All
right.
in
That's
favor?
it.
Thank
All in
you.
favor?
Thank
Yes.
you.
So unanimous from the water board?
Yes.
For D. And so I would actually like for us to make a separate motion. So is there a motion?
This is very tough, it really is, because I don't want to put you off, Marcella, for coming forward. And what I would suggest is between now and May to attend some of the water board meetings to see if it is something you're interested in, because it might not be what you're thinking it is. So I really suggest you do that. But I'd go along with making a motion that D fills the position.
Yeah, I think it makes sense what Rodney said, made perfect sense, whereas it's a short-term appointment. It makes sense to bring somebody on who doesn't require any ramp-up. But I agree with Carol. If you're interested in running for the position, I encourage you to do that 100%. I love seeing new faces in town that are
Definitely.
stepping up to volunteer and attend a few of the water board meetings and see if that's what you like to do. And I'd strongly encourage you to run.
Definitely.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I would second
Thank
Carol. Is there let's try this again. There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So D has been appointed. Again, interim appointment until May, and then certainly anybody who'd like to run for it can do that.
Thank you very much.
Something else, Marcella, on your form, you actually ticked the box for conservation. I think probably
Yeah,
because you couldn't find
that was
the water.
confusing.
Yeah, probably because you couldn't find the water board because it wasn't there. So I think there is some vacancies on conservation. And
Yes.
your background might suit that as well,
Okay.
because it interacts somewhat. So
Thank you.
I'd certainly have a look into that as well.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah, that's a
Please,
fantastic
please.
point. Yep.
I
Yeah,
will do.
don't go anywhere.
No,
All right, stay here.
I do believe we were short on conservation, and
Conservation is great. I didn't know there was an opening. That's a good.
All right,
Do we close it now?
so you can close your meeting.
Yeah,
Go ahead, yeah.
We close the water board?
I'll second that.
You have to say about
All in
you.
favor?
Say,
Aye.
of course, Mark isn't.
All right, so the water board meeting has been closed.
I didn't know.
In the interest of the people who are here, I'd like to ask Steve Robesco to come up for the next part of this. Steve has a presentation for us with regard to the, where's my, Charter Review Committee. So he is going to provide an update and he has a presentation. So Steve, I'm going to get your you can come right up to the podium, that way you can see your presentation if you want.
Can I sit here, or do you actually want me up there?
Do you want to sit there?
I'm perfectly comfortable sit here.
That's fine. Heather, do you have the presentation there? Heather, do you have the presentation there?
I do not. I can try pulling it up, Julie. I thought you had it on the podium.
I do have it on the podium, but Steve
Oh.
would prefer to,
Okay, well, if it's on the podium, I guess I'm going to the podium.
no, he's coming, he's coming.
Okay. You just have to, Julie, just the share file on the podium and it should do it.
Okay.
Because the podium is now a co-host.
All right, can we see this okay? All right, it's all yours.
Sure.
To change the slide, you can just swipe.
Okay.
Bear with me. This one, it's sharing the wrong one. All right, are you okay with doing it this way and then you can just click on each one?
Sure.
Okay.
Totally adaptable and flexible.
Thanks, Steve.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank the Select Board for the opportunity for us to present. I represent 7 individuals in town who were kind enough to volunteer and pursue what we felt to be an immediate need that was identified by the Select Board. And in fact, it's my understanding that the Select Board has on one of its goals for this year that the town charter be reviewed and modified as appropriate relative to its content. Again, I'm very fortunate in that I have 6 other individuals who are passionate, definitely engaged, and wish to do the finest job possible. We're here tonight after our second meeting, which was held earlier tonight, to present an update to the board, and our commitment to the board is that we will do so on a regular basis per the requirement of our sponsors, who in fact are the Select Board. Our agenda this evening is going to be, we're going to review the mission statement as presented on the website, and that was shared with all of us as we volunteered to step forward. We have a bit of a slide that we call something to consider, which we would like the Select Board to take a look at and review, because we believe it contains pertinent information relative to our mission and scope. We have an activities update. In other words, what have we done in the 2 meetings that we've held thus far as a committee and what we've accomplished. We're here to identify that we have an analysis tool that we're going to be using throughout our process, which will identify the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and risks or threats to the town of Paxton that we feel we need to address relative to the charter. We have sponsor questions and requests that we're going to go over and ask for your guidance, insight, and responses to, as well as an approval, which you're aware of. And finally, we will do a wrap-up and takeaway. The mission statement, as copied and extracted from the website. The committee has been established to review the current town charter and recommend revisions or amendments necessary to improve the governance and operations of the town of Paxton. Our work shall ensure that the charter continues to meet the current and future needs of the town, We will promote transparency, accountability, and efficiency, and we will reflect the best practices of municipal governance as we have begun to identify sources through the state and other municipalities relative to those best practices. Something we would like the Select Board to consider as our sponsors. First, we would like to thank the board for entrusting us with the complicated, difficult, and exceptional task of reviewing the charter and making recommendations for revisions that we deemed necessary to improve the town government. We're well aware of that responsibility and that we carry it on behalf of all the residents of the town, employees, residents, boards, committees, select board, etc. And we'll perform these duties, as I said earlier, with transparency, due diligence, and care. However, having just convened our committee this month and our second meeting tonight, the deadline that is stated within the mission statement on the website is a little bit unrealistic. It says that we'll complete this by next month, by March, in 6 weeks. We will continue to update the board throughout the next few months, and will provide a more realistic timeline by early spring, if the board accepts that specific recommendation.
I would accept that recommendation.
Definitely.
Beautiful. All right. What we have accomplished so far in our 2 meetings? Well, we've come together, we've gotten to know each other, we've elected our officers for the committee, and begun our work. The good news is, all 7 of us have completed all the requisite training that has been required by the municipality and the state government. We've created an activity workbook, or I guess it would be called a workbook. And basically, it begins to formulate our strategy around approach and the tasks that are going to be at hand. One of the experts in our group who deals with communications as part of her job has begun to put together and create a communication strategy. And this communication strategy will be all-encompassing for the select board, for the committees, for the boards, for the employees of the town, and for all the residents. And when we talk about boards and committees, we're not just talking about the department heads or the committee or board chair. We're talking about every one of the individuals that we can reach to get their feedback and input into what the town charter means, what exists today, how they would like to see it refined, what can it be used for in going forward as a tool to enable and define an effective and efficient and transparent government structure with all the benefits that are supplied to our residents throughout the town. And another one of our, in fact, it's our vice chair, has begun to do extensive research and analysis of the various resources offered by the state, by specific other communities, as well as companies or institutions that specialize in this type of governance and insight. And we've begun to explore how we leverage those resources going forward in the creation. Do you have any questions around what I've covered so far?
I have no questions, but I'd invite, if your board is here, to introduce them if you'd like.
I was going to ask that.
I would love to introduce my board.
I was going to ask that.
I am very fortunate, again, because they are totally engaged and passionate about this, and 6 of us are here tonight. The 7th person, who was at our meeting earlier, had to go home because she had sick children that she had to take care of. Tara is not here. But can I ask my committee members to identify themselves, please.
There's a microphone right here.
David, would you like to start because you're right in front of a microphone?
Pass it along to each other. How's that?
Good evening. My name is Paul Bertler, 270 Richards Avenue.
Thank you, Paul.
Hello, my name is Chuck Putney, 2 Ledyard Road. Happy to be here tonight.
Hi, everybody. I'm Megan Puglisi. I'm at 537 Marshall Street.
Gary Goldberg, 15 Cutler Road. Thank you.
Dave Johnson, Richards Avenue. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Steve Rubesco, 94 Pleasant Street, Paxton. All right. I've talked about overcoming the challenges that we may face. Again, we're going to create a strategy to mitigate those and make sure that they're included in our approach and execution. By the way, SWOT, again, stands for, SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats or risks. Okay. Requests and needs for our sponsor. One of the things we are struggling with initially is the fact that we're not sure that the mission statement, which was on slide 3, has clarity around the intent or the scope of what the select board envisions. Therefore, we need some sort of clarification or engagement in helping us define that. In support of that, we need a dedicated select board member liaison to act as an active part of our group, providing guidance, again, scope, definition, but it also ensures open, continuous communication and transparency with our sponsors. We also understand at this time that this is a rough situation or time of the year for the select board and many of the committees, the department heads, etc. There's a little thing called budget that a lot of you are going through. In addition, you're also dealing with your day-to-day challenges, opportunities, threats, and risks, including water main breaks and other challenges. We understand that. But clearly our ability to interact and get feedback and discussions with the appropriate people with these challenges existing obviously does impact our timeline and our ability to perform. We also know that in the past, there's been a difficulty in reaching the appropriate level of people in the town, the residents. We are looking for any guidance relative to how best to engage the town residents in review and feedback process once a proposed draft is ready for review, or at least initially, what they feel about what should be in the definition of our town and its government, its services, etc. We need that communication strategy or approach to be reliable and effective and repeatable. And obviously I had to put in for my friend Mr. Love, expenses, if we have any expenses relative to our committee, how are they covered? Yes, I know, Mark, there's no money. But I had to ask the question anyway, even if it's a couple $100. And finally, having scope mission, what do you, our sponsors, define as a success criteria? How would we know, how are we going to know we've been successful and reached the conclusion of our mission statement and or purpose, right? We know there's a lot of interdependencies. We know you have this as one of your goals. One of the questions that was originally on our slide was, why now? Why is it important for the town charter to be revised at this point? Is there something that we need to be aware of, something that is dependent on our activity or another board's activity in relationship to ours? That kind of clarification would be greatly appreciated relative to understanding. And as you know, the final request is we would love to use the Paxton Safety Complex for our meetings, as we are proposing to coordinate our meetings on the second and fourth Monday of the month in conjunction with the Select Board, an hour and 15 minutes before you meet. That allows us to meet. It allows time for Scott, God bless him, to, when our meeting is done, for him to reset and get everything squared away for the Select Board meeting. So, wrap up and takeaways. Approval to use the PSC as our meeting place, and a commitment to date for the next committee update, which we have proposed to be somewhat in early spring.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you on behalf of the entire committee for your time and attention.
Thank you, Steve.
Yep, thank you.
I never had any questions about the quality of this committee when it was put together. I was super excited to see the membership that came forward. And after this, I am even more excited. So I just want to say thank you so much. You're obviously all very dedicated to this. You have a fantastic view of how to put this together. I am really excited to see what you come up with. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
I'm sorry, one thing I forgot to mention, or when I recovered it, the liaison from the Select Board.
Yes.
We understand that your current workload is so demanding and that you don't have the time to provide somebody as our liaison at this time. We are hoping in May, when there are 3 positions open, and Carol, please tell me you're going to run again, that after those elections, with the 2 additional Select Board members, that we might have a greater chance of getting that liaison assigned to our committee. All right? With that, I'll ask, does my committee have any other follow-up questions, comments? David, Gary?
I'm just curious to hear what the Select Board may have to say to some of your requests.
As am I, Gary.
I did write them down. I'm happy to provide some comment now if that's what you'd like.
Please. We would welcome it.
So as far as having a dedicated Select Board member as a liaison, we endeavor to provide a liaison to every board and committee. Of course, this being a new committee, it falls off schedule from our usual liaison assignments, which occur generally in May. But that doesn't mean we can't look at trying to assign somebody before then. If you would like to get somebody on board sooner, I'm sure that one of us can find time for a committee as important as a charter review committee.
That is music to our ears. We would welcome any Select Board members' participation as soon as possible.
Yeah, I would want to involve Kirk in that discussion, and he's not with us tonight. And so I would ask for this to be put on a upcoming agenda, if that's okay with you.
I certainly don't think we have any objection to that at all.
Okay. As far as timeline is concerned, certainly I think there was a timeline put together early on, and it took a little bit longer to put the committee together than I think was originally anticipated. And so a March deadline is certainly not reasonable at this point, so I completely agree with you on that. I would frankly, and I'd invite any comment that Carol would have, but I would leave it up to the committee to establish a timeline.
I was going to say the same thing, yeah.
Yep.
You know what you got to do, so.
Right.
Definitely.
Okay?
Yep.
Accepted? Again, contingent upon a clear mission statement and understanding of
Yes.
scope.
Yes. Let me just write that down. So things that a Select Board liaison, I think, would be able to help you with would be setting up a clearer mission statement. Certainly, our town administrator would be helpful with that as well. And I think that would be something that would be best accomplished with the coordination of the committee at one of your meetings.
Agreed?
The other thing that I think that could be addressed in that same conversation would be potential communication strategies. We certainly have a number of communication strategies in town, and we can talk about the best ways to leverage all of them, any of them, which ones you feel are most appropriate. We learned a lot through COVID, actually, with communication. And so we do have a lot of information to be able to share with you on that front.
Excellent.
And so we certainly can help with that.
Good.
As far as expenses are concerned, I'm going to look to the man in the back of the room. You don't have a budget for this year. So, certainly that's something that can be thought about going into next year, going into next budget season, assuming that the committee stays on for that long, which I anticipate probably it will go beyond July. And so I'm going to go ahead, Mark. You got the microphone ready to go. I'm going to leave it up to Mark.
I thought it would come in my direction anyways. I would encourage the Charter Review Committee to make a submission to the Finance Committee under the Reserve Fund. I think the criteria is extraordinary and unusual, and this is rather extraordinary and unusual. We don't have a Charter Review Committee every year. We have it every 10 years, so I'm sure that assuming the ask is reasonable, I'm sure the committee would be sympathetic to the ask. So I encourage you to do that right now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Thank you, Mark. We appreciate your support.
So that dovetails in. Thank you, Mark. You actually brought us back to one of the questions that Steve had originally asked that I did write down. And the question was, why now? And I think the biggest reason for why now is it's been 10 years. So my understanding is best practice is to review a town charter every 10 years or so. And so we want to take a look at it and see if it still fits our town. We know there are some things that need to be updated. Some positions have changed and whatnot. So we know those things need to be updated. But certainly the world changes and it seems to be changing faster every day. And so it makes sense to take another look at it now. And then the last question, there's two other questions. So one other question was, how would you measure your success? How would the committee measure its success? Mm-hmm. I would think in my mind that a measure of success would be successful passage of a new town charter, at town meeting, which would then go to the legislature for approval. That to me is the ultimate level of success. That said, I think the committee should probably consider how it wants to tackle that, whether it wants to tackle it all at once or in pieces. We saw recently that the legislature was able to pass a certain amendment to the town charter in, I think, 6 weeks' time. So the possibility exists, if you wanted to potentially break it up, that you could do that. Just a thought.
Agreed. However, I would point out to you, in the, again, research that we have done around best practices, I would submit to you many of the sources that we have uncovered and would reference would suggest that the charter as it exists today is not necessarily a town charter, but rather a statement of roles and responsibilities. And there are many omissions, as you pointed out, positions that no longer exist.
Yep.
And so, again, depending upon mission and scope would depend on what direction we need to go to and the depth at which we need to tread. Finally, I still believe that we would need something. I understand your statement relative to the success criteria being that which the town would vote on and approve the charter. But I would submit to you that what we need from you, the Select Board, as our sponsor, is what what constitutes in your mind a successful content of the town charter?
Got it.
Okay, what is an appropriate level of detail, et cetera? Okay? And that's, again, going back to the guidance that we seek. Fair enough?
Fair enough. Yep. Okay. And then before we move on to the last thing, I don't want to exclude Carol sitting over here. Is
I'm
there
listening.
anything that you'd like to add to any of those questions?
No, I think you've answered them fully. I did catch on to what you were saying about the level of success. I think you want to I think you'll know that you've got success if you go to town meeting and there's no surprises. If everybody is on board or being able to ask the questions they needed to ask prior to this town meeting, I think that'll be your level of success. I think if you meet town meeting and people are trying to knock it down for some reason, then I don't think everybody's been included. But I don't think I don't think that'll happen in this case. I'm just saying I think you're going to do all the means you can to get the word out, the feedback there, and I think you're going to take your time and make it right. So.
Just as a matter of reference, Paul, keep me honest. One of the references that we have is the town of Ashland's process for their recent activity of reviewing and rewriting their town charter. Did they have something like 58 or 60 meetings that they recorded? Okay. So I just want to plant that seed as to the amount of work and effort it's going to take this committee to do the job well.
And that's why.
This is an example.
Yeah, and that's why you need to set your timeline and not us.
Right.
Yes, agreed. Thank you.
Right. I'd encourage you, take your time, as Carol said a moment ago, take your time and do it right. I don't think you should feel rushed by knowing that the deadline was originally March. Obviously, that's out the window. I want you to not feel rushed and to feel like you've been able to put the time and effort into it that you want to put into it.
Appreciate that. I say that on behalf of the entire committee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So the last item was a request to use this room, actually, at the Public Safety Complex to conduct your meetings, ideally on Mondays, just prior to the Select Board meetings, as you indicated, which of course makes sense for Scott. Thank you, Scott, for his time. And so my understanding is that this has already gone to the, and Heather, correct me if I'm wrong, this has already gone to the chiefs for approval?
Yes, they're all set with it.
Okay. So given that, I would entertain a motion to allow the Charter Review Committee to use the Public Safety Complex to hold their meetings.
I make a motion that the committee, the Charter Review Committee, have access to this building, this room, every other Mondays before the Board of Selectmen's meetings, and any other meetings that they need to, as long as it fits in with the schedule going forward.
Okay, I'll second that. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right. So
Thank you
you're
very
good to go
much.
for this
And
room?
thank you for everything you put together so far. Seems like you've got to off running, so
Yep.
thank you so much.
The amount
Thank
of
you
thought
very much.
and consideration that's going into this is exactly what I would want to see. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Oh, did you pull that down, Heather? Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Assessors.
So the next item that I want to tackle is to have the Board of Assessors, who are going to be reading a statement with respect to the FY 2025 classification of values and tax rate.
This doesn't make a very good podium.
Before you start, can I just say something?
What's that?
Before you start, can I say something?
Absolutely.
After the last meeting, I was really upset because I was remiss in not thanking Kateri for all the work that she's put in as the assessor. I was meant to say it, I got it written down on my page, and then discussions got said and that. But Kateri, thank you so much. It's going to be very difficult to replace you. I wish you'd stay on, but I understand why you're not. But thank you. I'm glad you're staying on the Board of Assessors. Thank you.
Thank you, Kateri.
My wife told me I should get a haircut before I came, but I didn't think anybody would recognize me. My name's Glenn Sullivan. I am Vice Chair of the Paxton Board of Assessors. And I'm here just to respond to some comments that were made at the last Select Board meeting on January 13th regarding the tax classification hearing that happened on December 13th. First off, the scheduling of the meeting was handled by the Select Board. We had minimal input into the timing of the meeting, and the principal assessor made herself available for when the meeting was scheduled for. In addition, the town of Rutland was mentioned several times as being able to have their meeting at a later time that was more convenient. However, what was not known at the time is that the town of Rutland had many issues with their growth numbers and valuations, and had DLS and Vision both had to step in and go back and forth and provide substantial help so that they could resubmit their numbers, which is why they had to wait for so long. Secondly, with regards to the timing of the submission of the data to the state, we completed it in a timely fashion. It enabled the town to get our tax bills out on time without requiring an expensive preliminary estimated tax bill to be sent out. Regarding the suggestion that the data should have been sent to the state a week earlier, various factors this year were outside of our control. The company that was contracted to perform personal property assessment updates returned that data to us later than an ideal schedule would have called for, and in a format that required its entry into our software completely by hand, which is a meticulous process that needs to be done very carefully to ensure it's error-free. In addition, due to the expense of the software, unless you want to pay for another license, we only own one license, which meant that this had to be done solely by the principal assessor. And lastly, the suggestion that a summary of value and tax amount increase was not forthcoming was misleading. The tax valuation package has been in the same format for many years and has never contained that information in a dedicated sheet. But when the question was asked, if you refer to the recording of the December 13th meeting, mention was made that the overall residential increase of that the average increase of residential was 10.5%, and the average commercial value increase was 1.4%, and it was also mentioned that the increase of average valuation went from $459,020 to $506,668, for a net average tax bill change from $7,376 to $7,486, resulting in an average increase of just over $100. So when the question was asked, the question was answered. On an unrelated note, we are happy to report that the job posting for a new principal assessor, of which we will miss the existing one dearly, was posted on Tuesday, January 21st, and we've started to receive resumes and applications. We plan to post a meeting shortly that will contain an executive session to review the applications and decide how and when to proceed in the interview process. We plan to post that meeting for Thursday, but it will be executive session. So you can show up, but we're going to kick you out of the room as soon as the meeting starts. By the way, I forgot to mention, we are in the middle of an open meeting right now. We adjourned it to move here and then reopen the meeting before we started this meeting. I'd like to thank you for your time and for the opportunity to address the concerns that were brought up at the meeting on January 13th.
Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you for clarifying.
All right. So with that, let's see, we've done that. We've done the joint meeting with the planning board. We've done Board of Assessors. We've done joint meeting with Water Board. We have appointed
equipment.
Wachusett School District, and we've done the Charter Review Committee. So let's move on to new business. Travis is still here, and the opportunity has arisen to review a surplus disposal request. Come on up.
Good evening, Travis Tebow, Paxton DPW. So we actually have two surplus requests that we're putting forth this evening. First of which is a piece of equipment that was replaced last year, the John Deere 2653A diesel reel mower. which was replaced with a zero-turn mower. In FY '24. The estimated value of said items, around $6,000, is what we're thinking. The second piece is a surplus disposition request for the 2009 Ford E350 cargo van, which was the water department's. That was replaced several years ago and had been being utilized for parts at the shop still, and frankly, we were using it for storage. This piece of equipment is not roadworthy. It's basically worth the price in scrap. We did have a member from the local 4-H community reach out to the department and ask if the department would be willing to donate it to the 4-H Camp Marshall. Since that is above my pay grade to make that decision, we sent the request forth to you folks, and if you folks were in agreeance of that, it would then go to the water board. It just so happened that we met with you first. So again, that old E350 van, the market value's worth the price in scrap, which we estimate around $250.
Just those two items?
At this moment in time, yes.
Very good. So I just had the question, Heather, what process do we need to go through for each of these items in terms of recovering value, if any value is there?
So you can see on this first sheet, is it sharing on your screen, the recreation John Deere? Do you see the sheet?
Yep, we see it.
Okay, so the estimate's under 10,000, so we can advertise just on the website. So we use, I think it's Munibids, Travis, does that sound right?
Yeah, so there's several different avenues we could go about it. Municibids would be one online advertisement. You could advertise in a paper. There's several different ways to go about it.
So we usually do the Munibids one. I mean, that's just one we've done in the past. We've generally got decent amounts for them on that piece. So all I would need from the select board on this one is just a vote to mark this as surplus, and then we'll go ahead and I'll work with the DPW and we'll get this up on the website, and we will work on disposing of it. Same thing for this one. This one gets, as Travis had noted, the decision to donate a piece of property comes back to the select board on whether we're going to do it. I have not spent any time looking or checking to make sure there's no conflict, so we would have to do that first to make sure, even if the select board wanted to donate it, if it's something we can do, or it's donating something to a nonprofit as opposed to, I think it's a little bit different when we generally give something to like one of our neighbors, right? So another town that needs something, swapping something out or what have you. So I don't have an answer on this one. If it's something that the select board is interested in, instead of disposing of it the normal way we would, which again, Munibids or seeking formal quotes, then I would have to look that up first.
Okay. So why don't we handle them one at a time? So I would entertain a motion for the John Deere mower, diesel reel mower, to go ahead and advertise that for sale.
So I make a motion that we allow the John Deere 2653A to be classified as surplus equipment and advertised as necessary.
I would second that. Any further discussion on that item? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so all set on the mower. In terms of the Ford E350 cargo van, Travis mentioned that the estimated value is roughly $250 in scrap, and has received a request from the Camp Marshall 4-H for a donation. And so I would entertain any motion or discussion on that piece.
I don't, if we can do it, if Heather's going to go in, look into whether we can donate it outright, then I think that would be a better option than wasting our time trying to get rid of 250. But that's up to the water board as well. But it's quite an old vehicle.
What's that?
It's quite an old vehicle.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's on its day.
it served the department extremely
Very well.
Yeah.
My thought is if we already know that we have somebody who's willing to take it, sometimes that's easier than trying to find a way to get rid of it, frankly.
That was
So-
kind of my thought as well, but again, I felt as though that was you folks' decision to make and not mine.
Yep.
I was bringing the request before you.
So I'll entertain a motion on that. Certainly, it also needs to be discussed by the water board, who is not here anymore. So, contingent upon the water board's agreement, I suppose I would make that motion.
Yeah, I'll second that because I agree with you entirely.
Okay, so the motion is to go ahead and agree to donate it to Camp Marshall with the provision
Permission.
that the water board would need to also agree.
Okay, perfect.
Julia,
Okay. Yep.
Can we just have the caveat so that I just double check to make sure we can?
Yes, yeah, so, yep.
Yeah, I said that, yeah.
Yeah, with the caveat that the town administrator will need to just double check on any conflicts with that. So, so there's a motion made, Carol has seconded it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so you're all set. Thank you,
you very
Travis. All right. Getting back to the page. All right. Okay, so while we're here, I suppose we're going to just do everything backwards. So we might as well move into the annual town meeting and the continued discussion of location, day of week, and date. Let's see, Donna was kind enough to put together a brief memo for us with some answers to our questions on Anna Maria. Donna, do you have that? Are you able to? I thought I had it up on my computer, but
It's
apparently
the
do
last
not.
thing.
Is it the last thing?
Yeah, it's the last
Okay,
page.
good. Thank you. And so essentially, she went back to Anna Maria and asked the questions that we had in terms of space and accommodations. So Zecco Auditorium, the fixed seats are 350. An additional 50 seats can be added to the back of the room and still be compliant. IT would need to be there, which would run about $30 an hour for their services. Presumably, that would actually be very, very helpful. And so, our average town meeting, even at 4 hours, that's only $120. I think that's money well spent, frankly. And then you would also have the ability to utilize the parking lots over there for people. The gymnasium over at AMC can accommodate a much larger crowd, 750 people using just the bleachers. And then the town could rent and bring in additional chairs to put on the floor if so desired. Events held in the gym do require a vinyl flooring to be laid at a cost of $300 to the town. The gym has no air conditioning, and the town would need to provide its own projection screen and riser and any AV equipment that is needed. So certainly that presents a challenge. We've held town meeting in Zecco before. It actually went very, very well over there. So I would be inclined to move forward with Zecco at this point. I think based on the numbers that we saw at the last town meeting, this being an annual town meeting, I suppose you could expect there to be a small increase to that. But it sounds to me like I think that would accommodate 400 seats would accommodate a likely turnout, and certainly it helps to suit our needs at a cost that is, I think, digestible personally. Thoughts?
The only thing I would ask is, Donna, did we mention the dates that we were looking at? Was that okay with Anna Maria?
Yes, I provided that at the last meeting.
Okay, I ain't got that one. I'm just looking at this current
So
one.
they did have what we typically do our first Monday of the month.
Yeah.
online, and then they had the 17th and the 24th.
Yes, it was the last Saturday.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Thank you. I ain't got that one done. I'm just looking at this one.
Yep. So I guess then that's a good segue into the next question, which is, do we want to keep it on Monday, which is what, May 5th? Or do we want to move it to a Saturday, in which case we'd be looking closer to the end of May? There's a lot of factors that go into that decision.
I'm happy with Monday. I like Monday nights, town meetings, but if everybody wants Saturday, that's up to you.
Yeah.
I think there's more conflicts on a Saturday than a Monday evening.
Yeah, I'm inclined
Because it's May, it's not as though it gets dark very.
It's right, exactly. So it'll still be light. I'm inclined to not change it, frankly. I think that people have come to expect a town meeting to occur on a Monday night. And so acknowledging that it does present some challenges for some populations, that's the night that we've always had it on, and with some few exceptions during COVID, of course. But, Saturdays certainly present a challenge as well for other populations. So I don't think it matters, frankly, which day you do it. Not everybody's going to be able to make it. It's just the nature of the beast. So I'm inclined to leave it where it is, where I don't see a whole lot of benefit that's likely to come from moving it. Okay.
Yep, I'm fine.
So I don't think we necessarily need a motion on that, since we already have, that date is already set. So what I would want, though, is a motion for the location.
So I don't mind that if we feel that ZECO is the best option, if we feel like we're going to get another large crowd due to the planning board's zoning changes that should be coming up again, and whatever else happens with the town's budget and obviously override, I think the ZECO auditorium would be the best accommodation. So I make a motion that we contact Anne-Marie College and secure ZECO auditorium for the May 5th town meeting.
Yeah, I would second that. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. So we're good to go with town meeting. All right. Moving along. I think all we have left is our consent agenda. Excluding, of course, town administrator's report. I do have something in correspondence I'd like to read, and our public comment session. So let's just get through our consent agenda, which should be fairly quick. So there are 7 items on the consent agenda. I'm going to tell you right away that I'm taking one of them, and I'm going to object to it so that it gets moved into an executive session. The rest of them, however, I will read to you. Number 1 is to approve the meeting minutes from the regular meeting held on January 13th, 2025. Number 2 is to approve the meeting minutes from the executive session held on January 13th, 2025. That's the one I'd like to move. Number 3 is to appoint Brooke Maliff as the alternate CMRPC member until June 30th, 2025. Number 4 is a request from the Paxton Garden Club to hold their annual plant sale on the town common on Friday, June 7th from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. with a Sorry?
Saturday, June 7th.
Oh, it does say Friday. That's a Saturday. So bear with me. I know what the problem is. So request from the Paxton Garden Club to hold their annual plant sale on the town common on Saturday, June 7th from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. with a preset Friday, June 6th, starting around 6 p.m. Everybody, calling all plant lovers, the Garden Club is having their annual plant sale, contingent upon our approval in a few minutes, on Saturday, June 7th, from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. I personally have been to this plant sale, and I love it, so I strongly recommend that you go. And there will be soil testing. And vendors.
And native plants and perennials.
Native plants.
And herbs and veggies.
Perennials, annuals, herbs, and veggies. I'm repeating it only because Robin doesn't have a microphone in front of her, so I'm making sure that everybody hears this.
Sorry.
Okay.
The
So,
Garden Club would be extremely grateful to the town, as always, and then also the general community, so.
very good. So I will entertain a motion. I'm sorry, I can't do that. We're on a consent agenda. Moving on.
We haven't got through it yet.
Number 5. Number 5 is to accept the resignation of Larry Spongeberg from the Cultural Council effective 2/4/25. Number 6 is to appoint Daniel Quigley to the Anna Maria Scholarship Committee with a term ending June 30th, 2025. And number 7 is to appoint Daniel Quigley to the Cultural Council with a term ending June 30th, 2027. Are there any other items besides number 2 that draw any objections from the Select Board?
Nope.
Hearing none, I declare that all of the others except for number 2 have passed. I would request that the meeting minutes from the executive session be placed in the next executive session meeting. Okay, that said, would you please, for me, send a letter to Mr. Spongeberg thanking him for his time on the Cultural Council? I actually ran into him over at Assumption University when I brought my daughter over there for a tour on Saturday, and we were lost, and he was very helpful. I was very happy to see a familiar face. All right. So that is our consent agenda. We are done with that. Okay. So moving right along. Correspondence comes first. So let's get that done. I have... Let's see. Something flagged DPW. Here we go. So this is an email from a town resident for the DPW sent over to Travis, and it says, "Hi Travis, thank you. Let me say, you and your team's work is what keeps this town running. I appreciate your hard work and thank you again, and keep up the wonderful job that you do." And I mean, how nice. How nice. Honestly, it doesn't really reference, it does say in the subject line, Moreland Cemetery, Chestnut Street, short paved side. However, it doesn't otherwise state a specific reference as to what about the DPW. And so I have to take that as a general feedback, and I'm sure, I wish Travis was still here to hear it. I'm sure he would be very thankful for this resident to send in their kind comment, so thank you. And then the rest of these are all the school committee recommendations. Oh, are there? Oh my goodness, I missed the other one. Thank you for sending me. Oh, here's another one. Okay. So this was from somebody who experienced a water main break. And, because there's several of us in town that have dealt with that recently, unfortunately. And the email says, "Thank you for getting our water back on so soon, and we appreciate you working in such cold weather." If you remember correctly, there was a water main break that occurred in the very frigid 4-degree temperatures that we had, and this was that particular water main break, and the DPW was out there doing their work in extremely challenging conditions. So thank you to the DPW, and obviously our community thanks them as well.
And the water department.
And the water department. Let's not forget the water department. I think many people tend to lump them together when it comes to a water main break. They do work together on that type of a project, but let's not forget water. That's important. Yep. Okay. So that's what I have for correspondence. Donna, you'll put those recommendation letters with the minutes for me. Thank you. All right. Town administrators report.
I don't have anything written this week, so last week I went to the MMA, the Mass Municipal Association Conference at the end of the week. Always a lovely opportunity to do some training and also do a bunch of networking and troubleshooting with other TAs, TMs, mayors, and so forth in the area, so that was always good. We've been working on the budget. We'll get everything over to FinCom hopefully by the end of this week, so we're trying to finish putting all those pieces together. Capital met last week, and they're meeting again, I believe, this week and next week to keep looking at materials and ask any questions, make sure they have everything they need. Next week, we'll start focusing on a bunch of procurement. So we have a lot of things we got to wrap up by June 30th with state funds. So we're going to switch gears once we get all the budget in and work on those pieces. I've been working with Brooke, which I think she was in the audience today. I don't know if everyone had an opportunity to meet her when Planning Board was there, but she is our new Cheryl, as I think she actually answers to Cheryl at this point. And she's lovely. She's doing a great job. I've been doing a lot of hands-on training with her and trying to get other boards, committees, and employees in to do some training with her as well. So I think she's doing great. If the residents are looking for her, or a vendor or contractor, she is in the office. Right now, we generally have her answering correspondence and people coming in from 8 to 4, Monday through Thursday right now. Those are kind of her solid hours, and the door is usually unlocked during those times. And then if you do call and you're still leaving a voicemail, please bear with us. Come next week, we will switch it back over to live answer. Right now, we're just giving her an opportunity to catch her breath and get to know what's going on before she starts taking some live calls. That's all I have unless there's any questions.
Okay. Any questions for Heather?
No, I'm all set.
Okay. So no questions. Thank you, Heather. Lastly, we have our public comment. Any public comment? No public comment? None. Are you sure? Okay. There is no public comment. Let it be known. There is no public comment. And it is now 8:36 p.m. and our work is done. Anything further from you, Carol?
No, thanks.
Okay. Nothing further from me? I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We stand adjourned. Thank you.